Oh boy, buttercream.net. I'm doing prep because this is a lot of rice, so I'm going to use 4 eggs. And if there's any, I probably shouldn't use any bacon bits, right? It's not traditional. Just rice and eggs, right? And some soy sauce. Are you doing cocaine again? On a regular daily basis since 1983, brought to you by the Japanese people that you thought were people but actually were just demons in disguise, and then they swatted you, and now you're a stupid dumbass bitch for thinking that my mom does cocaine. Wii-oo, mainframe breakdown, Wii-oo, SWAT rescinded, Wii-oo.
Alec needs more soy sauce in his diet. I would know.
Such as my heart rate with a GoPro, because sometimes you can hear my heart beating through the GoPro. Everyone thought they were going to fuck me up with this time travel shit, and then I had to remind them every second that passes, I am traveling 1 second forward in time. That what they were doing wasn't that special, and in fact, I was doing it the best. Mom, we may have to amend this, no bacon protocol. I think so. What? What'd you say? Sounded like you said he didn't mean it. Who didn't mean it? German Stike Right 2826.3? Hitler didn't mean it. He didn't mean it when he did the Holocaust. What he meant was, will you please stop getting in my personal space? I have to go to art school. That's what he meant. But somehow it turned into a genocide. And I watched from wherever babies come from. And then when they asked me, where we dropping, boys? I said, remember that place that Hitler failed to destroy? The one place that Hitler was like, ooh, I'm gonna get you people. That place, let's go there. That sounds spicy as fuck. And I bet we're gonna get circumcised when we drop in. And yep, that happened. No thanks to you, Mom. Brainwashed ass mother of mine. By the way, for the record, my father's brainwashed too. And thirdly, I'm brainwashed, but in a way worse way. I'm actually a danger to society. You were just a danger to me. And actually, society needs to be endangered at this point in time, so it all works out. Society is now an endangered species. Thanks to yours truly. And only yours truly. Everyone else is just small fries when it comes to endangering society. But I'm the real deal. Osama bin Laden? Not a chance. He was actually on the right side of things. Saddam Hussein? What's wrong with a man in some tidy whities? Alec Clark Stewart? Total terrorist vibes. Probably gonna kill someone right now. Probably gonna kill someone forever right now. All the time. He's totally terrorism in a nutshell. Oh wait, no, that's law enforcement. Never mind. I got them confused. Alright, last time I talked to the camera while I was in the waterproof case, I learned you can hear me. Unless there's something on your side interfering with it. So, what I'm doing today is I tried a slightly new brewing method to catch you up to speed. I'm not adding yeast to my brewing, and I get a lot of my ingredients from Delta Brewing. So this time, I've had on the stove for a few days now a combination of some rye, some oats, some Pilsner, and some malts. And then I added some rice hulls, and this time I did not add the hops to this, because even though I only put it on low heat, it still does something. I don't know why. It does something to the hops flavor when I put it all in at once. So what I did this time, and did I leave it in here? I don't remember if that's from this time or last time. Anyway, what I did was I used a French press and I made a separate hops brew. And I think I used hemp in it also, just so I wouldn't have to use like a whole thing of hops by itself. So I think there's some hemp and then mostly hops in there. Let me smell it. Well, definitely tastes like hops. You could drink that by itself with there's hemp in there too, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, you could definitely drink that by itself. That's delicious. In fact, I think maybe next time I should do just the hops, just so it's like super saturated. Also, I made a rice brew with mochi. I rinsed the rice. It's this. I rinsed the rice and then I filled it up to like here. And then I used well water, and then I just put it straight in the refrigerator for like multiple weeks. And it's pretty delicious. I drank a lot of it already. But if you don't put it in the refrigerator, it goes bad really quick. Oh, yeah, so there's that. Going over here. I have a few other things going on in here. I have this is just straight hemp from this. Oh wait, no, did I do it? No, I didn't use, I'm sorry, I didn't use the French press for that. I have this bottle that I filled it up with hemp, and then I just put well water in it, and then I put it in the refrigerator, and it just did this by itself. As you can imagine, that's a pretty dank brew right there. But once again, it's not THC heavy at all. It's just cannabidiol and whatever else is in hemp. Anyway, so now I have a few different ways I can proceed. This is the bottle I made the hemp brew in. And also, here's another little interesting factoid, or whatever you want to call it. This is pear juice. As you can see, it still has pear, like I mashed up the pear. And once again, it's well water. And I can strain this and use it in my brew as well. I don't necessarily want to just put the full pear thing in there because I'm trying to create clear brews. And what I mean by clear is just not a lot of solids, even if they're chopped up. Minimal solids. I have a couple other little projects in there that I don't need to include. But that's about the gist of what this sequence contains. And I had this on a little bit of heat earlier, just some low heat, and it's cooled down now, so I can pretty much begin the transfer whenever I'm ready. And usually what I've been doing is putting it in, just putting the whole thing in here and then transferring it to these bottles. But I think what I have to do in order to mix it is use this again, at least for part of it. Wait, why did I just think to put the water in the trash can? Anyway, so I'm just going to estimate the mixture. First I need to take this out. So yeah, I'll be, mixing and matching how much I use here because it's just for me, it's an experiment. I don't know where my other funnels went. I would say probably about half of the bottle should be this grain. At least. I know I'm losing some of the brew as I'm pouring it. We can just consider that an offering. Yeah, so let's start with that. And then this is the hemp and hops, so like mostly hops. And I think I'll probably put about half of it in there also. Now let me take a little taste test real quick. Yeah, you know what? I think I need to do the hops by itself isolated next time if I really want to achieve that effect. And you know what else I should do is probably not use the French press, even though it's pretty awesome to use it. I'm gonna just go ahead and use the rest of this because it needs to be used in here. Otherwise it's pointless. And then here's, wait, let me do another quick taste test. And I hear these mean bitches, these mean quote-unquote law enforcement bitches in hyperspace going, I'm sorry, what was that, Alec? We can't hear you because blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. Now get anxiety. Shut up. Ah, that's better. Oh, where'd the rice go? Right here. A little bit of rice. Yes, I can sense everyone being mean to me. In hyperspace, I already know. I can simulate all of your mean things. No need to come near me, ever again. And then this one's just straight hemp. So this should make it a little bit interesting. I should be ready to go on this. And then so the pear actually came from our family cabin property and is delicious AF. And yes, I'm simulating someone saying, "No, it isn't. It's disgusting." That was probably PJ. It's actually delicious. And then they just go, "No, it isn't." That's the entire way that I view these people. Oops. See, that happening feels like a direct one-to-one to exposing their scheme. That's the kind of shit they do. But I was helping you. You're done. I was helping you. You're done with the video. That's the kind of shit they do. I don't have siblings, so like their presence just generally feels like undesirable siblings. Like siblings that I wouldn't mind visiting their grave once a year. Graves. Or just completely forgetting about them. That might be nice. God damn it. There it is, I got it. It's trying to undo itself. Shouts out to all the women in the world who have gotten pissed off at putting a bra on or taking one off. It's still not working, of course not, because they were trying to make it seem like it worked, and then they would fuck it up again. That's how they get down. Okay, it worked that time. Oh, but we're helping you. We're helping you learn your place. Fucking hate the police. I wanted to be friends with the police, but they're just mean. Anyway, no drinking alcohol anymore, because I'd rather get a kill than get caught up. Don't get me wrong. I'm not attacking the police. I'm just pointing out that if I was drunk, and I'd probably get really angry about this shit and I'd do something I regret. What shit, Alec? Why do you seem to talk about this every time you open your fucking mouth? Well, you see, da-da-da-da-da-da, well, ziggy-booga-doog, 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 ziggy-bee. Anyway, that was the pear juice. I just didn't want it to go to waste. The pulp. And now I'm gonna taste test the final brew here, and there's no sugar in it yet. And in my head I heard someone going, "Yes, there is." You know, honestly, this brew is interesting, and I can tell it carries a lot of nutrients, but it's very, very, very smooth. I was expecting it to have more of a bite to it and a depth from the... I guess it does, it's just that it's very neutral. It feels very neutral to me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add sugars. I'll just use the rest of this sugar. I gotta keep this refrigerated or else it'll start fermenting from the sugar. Even if I don't add yeast, there will be a low level fermentation. And you know, that's not always a bad thing, but in this case, I think there's too many delicate chemicals that could actually go bad instead of just like, you know, gently turning. So I'm just gonna leave it as is and put it in the refrigerator when I'm done doing this. I like a sweet drink though. I'm just gonna use the rest of the bag. It's a fairly large batch. And you know what I'm going to do also is I'm going to add a little bit of this malt extract because I kind of expected there to be more of a malty flavor. Oops. Spilled some of it. Damn it. Just like when you're trying to get the ice out of your cup or glass or whatever. Like I said, minimal solids, but some of it's okay. And I know that's not really gonna dissolve all that much very well, but once again, it's just for me. And it might dissolve over time a little better. It smells very green. From the hemp mostly, I think. And look, it's bubbling a little bit. It definitely doesn't smell fermented, so that's not really a huge sign of like deep fermentation or whatever. Or I guess it is. It's a deep. There is a mild deep fermentation, but it's not the type that you would expect to quickly yield a large amount of ethanol or anything. That's what happens when you put the yeast with the sugar in it. Okay, another taste test. And once again, just reminding you, I'm not adding yeast to these. Very good. That actually tastes very good. And like I was saying, I'm actually trying to prevent it from, where'd my word go? I'm actually trying to prevent it from fermenting by keeping it in the refrigerator a lot. This is grains, like I said, it's just grains. It's only been on the stove for a few days, and I've been putting it on low heat. If I leave it out for a while, it'll start turning. And then I would just have to pasteurize it. Also, I have an allergy, which is a very strange allergy, and it applies to all like fruits and vegetables, kind of, because they all have like this protein in them that is like pollen. It's very close to pollen, and I have a very severe pollen allergy. So sometimes I take Zyrtec and like Benadryl, but I also have promethazine, which is an antihistamine and an antiemetic, and I've been finding this works for me better when I get this sort of reaction going on. It's not a severe, like, what's it called? It's not like I'm gonna necessarily break out into hives and stuff like that right away, but I have broken out into hives and gone into anaphylactic shock like 2 or 3 times in my life. And it always happens out of nowhere, where I feel this feeling and it's just a regular allergy feeling that I can tolerate, but then all of a sudden it just spills over. I find taking antihistamines is a good idea when I'm working with plant material that I'm ingesting. And I also find that I can take a Benadryl and a Zyrtec before bed, and while the promethazine does make me a little bit sleepy, it's easier to function. I find it's more effective and more pleasant than taking a Benadryl and a Zyrtec. Oh, and also, essentially, the process that I'm mimicking here, even though I'm making like a beer-like brew, is actually kind of akin to like the outcome desired from like pouring up high tech or something like that. Because one of the other things that I do is I use a syrup, which I had to recreate it this time. I ran out of it and I just filled the whole bottle with brown sugar, and then I put well water in it. And I've actually got room here, so I'll just go ahead and add it. Now, what I'm doing here is actually getting more nutrients than you would get from like a codeine cough syrup. I'm not looking for a quick fix in that sense. What I'm trying to do is give my body the nutrients that it's craving on that level. Like, instead of drinking a beer, or I never really had a problem with codeine, but I've multiple times I've encountered issues with dextromethorphan. I don't really recommend using dextromethorphan very much, because it's tempting to take more than you should, and it's not healthy for you. It's not like the type of clean pharmaceutical. It's like the difference between lysergamide and 25I NBOME. If you take a fuck ton of 25I NBOME, you're probably going to experience organ failure. If you take a large amount of LSD, you're probably going to reach enlightenment, and you might even like start a computer company. And so my thought process here is, I'm not really well versed in exogenous opioids, but my thought process here is that, like, drinking a codeine and promethazine mixture, as long as you don't overdo it, could be really effective in the short term. And I'm sure it can also affect your stomach and stuff, because I've overdosed on kratom, so you should definitely be careful with that. But like, drinking dextromethorphan is like 25I and NBOME. Whereas if you have an opioid tolerance and you take a fair amount of it, even though it can mess up your stomach if you have a bad opioid problem, if you take dextromethorphan, within a week, if you're abusing it, your fucking liver's probably going to shut down, and you're probably going to have a massive hallucination, and then you're not going to be able to pee anymore, and you're going to go into rigor mortis for some reason. And you're going to have to go to the hospital and get dialysis. Once again, this probably can occur with opioids as well. That's why I'm not particularly attracted to the exogenous opioid lifestyle. So what I've done instead is figured out that, oh, by the way, interesting that I use the LSD reference also, because basically beer, what I figured out is that beer actually, while you can produce alcohol with it, you can also produce LSD with some of the same ingredients, interestingly enough. So, bringing it all for full circle, what I realized is what my body is craving is a source of concentrated nutrients that I desire in order to treat certain symptoms, such as like cold symptoms and flu symptoms, and because I smoke hemp, also something that I can drink that soothes my throat and helps me stop coughing. And because I'm allergic to these raw plant materials, taking the promethazine helps me not have an allergic reaction. And then I can, drink this sort of stuff and then smoke my hemp, and I feel better because I have like massive migraines, insane nausea, multiple diagnoses including PTSD. So I need to stay properly medicated, which is why I also take ketamine. I have a ketamine prescription. In fact, this might even have some natural ketamine-like qualities just because of the way that dimethyltryptamine is present in whole foods, in whole raw foods. It often is present, especially in plants. And it's in animals too, though. And it just needs a salt type of compound to. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be a salt, but salt type of compound, something that ketonically bonds it, usually with an aqueous solution, to the amine. And it's not just dimethyltryptamine. There's probably a bunch of other amines in here too. But I'm just pointing out full circle that what I'm craving is nutrients. And the high that I'm looking for isn't a drug-induced high. It's the way my body feels when it has the right nutrients in it. I don't like being fucked up. I'm naturally high when I have the right fucking ingredients in my belly and in my bloodstream. That's what I'm looking for, is to feel correct, to feel well nourished and healed, so that I'm not always sick. And like I said, I'm not really particularly interested. I've never been interested in using intravenous drugs. I actually dislike, like when I was getting my ketamine infusions, I can tolerate a few pokes in the arm, but I really, really dislike repeated intravenous administration, so I just don't do it anymore. It's a personal preference. Composting in the garden. This used to be a garden. We just haven't grown anything in it in a while. And there used to be an apple tree or something right there. I can't remember what tree it was. Some sort of fruit tree. And then we had a blackberry patch over there. But we don't have these things anymore, so I'm just hoping that composting over time, I can get this earth fertile enough to grow something interesting. Some fruits and vegetables or something. Also, I think the deer and foxes like eating some of it too, and the squirrels maybe. They usually do it when I'm not looking, though. I've seen them over by it a few times, but I did an experiment where I left some of it out over in the bird feeder while they were present, and they didn't seem terribly desperate to head over towards it. So I'm guessing if they eat it, they probably are pretty aware of humans setting traps. I wasn't trying to trap them, I just wanted to see if they were going to eat it or not. But, whatever. Anyway, I still have all of this left over. And what I'm going to do with this is put probably some of it in here. I'm just going to fill up various containers with it. This stuff, actually, yeah, you know what I think I'm going to do actually? I'm going to keep this in here, and then I'm going to put this in my brown bottles that I usually use for this type of, for the more robust mix. I usually use the brown bottles for a hops and grains mix. But since we're doing something a little bit differently, I'm just going to go ahead I don't really see a point in doing all this transfer of putting this in here and then putting it in the bottles. I'm just going to use this for the bottles. And I can just drink this with a glass or something. Who knows? Excuse me. Yes, I'm washing the bottles in between uses. Yeah, to clarify, the feeling of quote-unquote like being high that I'm referring to, that I actually do like, isn't the feeling of not having my bearings, of like not being present. I don't like that feeling. The feeling that I like is the feeling of doing something really cool or learning something really cool and feeling accomplished or like, you know, amazed, I guess. And that's me. That's me doing that when I have the right fuel in my system. The drug doesn't do that for me. And by the way, the main difference between what's considered a drug versus food, like for your diet, is like how it impacts you. Like if it makes you feel drastically different, people tend to consider that a drug. But if it's like minimal, people don't consider that a drug usually. Like consider your vitamins. Your vitamins are, even though you don't feel that different, I guess they're considered supplements. But if you think about it, the idea between, for example, let's just take marijuana users for an example. People who use THC. Now, interestingly enough, the lore about using THC oftentimes when people use THC for the first time, they don't feel anything. I've seen that happen. I don't know if they're lying, but it seems like that's the case. For me, it was also kind of the case back when I did use THC, although I did feel something. Later down the line, using THC after that, the impact is much more potent. Also probably because the weed that I used was much more potent. But in knowing that, when people use THC consistently, often they don't get high anymore. That's not because the THC isn't working anymore. It is. It's still working. It just means that you're saturated and that your body has all of the THC that it needs for that period of time. And that's when it becomes just part of the diet. It's not it's not like you're not chasing a feeling anymore at that point, necessarily. I mean, you can try to, but it's like you're not getting a new experience out of it necessarily every time. It's possible, but I just happen to know that a common theme among THC users is developing a tolerance. And it kind of applies for almost any drug, quote unquote drug. And then it becomes just part of your routine. Just like any medicine or any food, even if you're smoking it, or for heroin users, if you're injecting the opium concoction or whatever on a regular basis just to keep your levels stable, well, that's just like you've become dependent on a certain type of food extract that you're using that you're ingesting in a manner other than through your stomach. Once again, I'm not even very interested at all in using opioids, for example, and I don't need to use THC laden weed right now either. A lot of the thrill of life is also seeing how much you can do without augmenting your system, or without having to fill in a deficit, I happen to have deficits. I'm being honest. I happen to have disabilities. However, this sort of thing, I do believe, can be enjoyed by people. You don't have to have a disability or an inherent deficit. I think you can make drinks like this, and because they don't get you drunk, as long as you enjoy the taste of what you're drinking, the sugar, I feel, sometimes helps. It's a really good source of nutrients that you can use to, for example, I have a hard time eating food a lot of the times because of my nausea and my hypertension and stuff like that. So, like, I'll eat oatmeal in the morning sometimes, but sometimes I won't be able to eat oatmeal, and sometimes, you know, I'll make a meal or I'll have a frozen meal, but sometimes I can't. Like right now, I ate probably around 11 a.m. or so. I still don't feel like eating anything. I just don't feel. I ate oatmeal around like 11 probably, and I still don't feel like eating a meal. So now I can have some of this. And yeah, I should still try to eat real food in a little bit if I can, but this should sustain me until I can do that. It's actually, to me, delicious. For some people, it might be, that sort of thing might be an acquired taste, because it's like, well, why are you drinking that if it doesn't, like, get you high or get you drunk? It's like, well, first of all, it might not do that to you in a way that you're used to or expecting, but I personally feel much more high functioning and fluid after drinking it. I just don't feel inebriated. That's the only thing. And that inebriation is what people typically look for to determine whether or not their drink or whatever is like strong enough. And you can do that if you want, but I'm just trying to explain that I'm looking at what the actual goal is and how it applies to me. Also, never have I ever once gotten a hangover from drinking these home brews, because I'm not adding the yeast. I've literally never gotten sick and had a hangover, or even gotten dehydrated or whatever from drinking my home brews. That's another huge problem. Back in the end of my alcoholic drinking days, it's like, okay, I could get like, you know, like a spiked iced tea from 7-Eleven or something, but it's just fucking poison, man. It's just poison. It was fun when I was like, drinking that sort of stuff was fun when I was younger, and like, didn't care if I got poisoned because my testosterone was so high and I was so young that I could just fucking turn into Goku or whatever. But why do that to yourself? There's no need to do that. I was brainwashed. And yeah, I might actually be able to make a really good alcoholic brew with yeast. I might even be able to make one that doesn't really make me sick or anything, and that I can drink responsibly. However, I happen to feel like, just like when I was extracting my own DMT, that if I start making alcoholic brews, I'm either going to get raided again, or someone's going to fucking poison me. Because for some reason, people are just assholes. And it takes discipline and effort not to be an asshole. And it seems like the human species has either forgotten how to do that as a whole, or has simply never learned. And I'm working on it, but it's very difficult living life the way you're supposed to live it in a society that punishes people for doing so. And tells you you're wrong. That's not how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to do it my way. Now buy my product instead of that. And go to prison. Anyway, my problem isn't with the original intents and like actual like content behind, like, for example, making drinks and stuff like that. And like I said, if you are capable of making an alcoholic drink that doesn't make you sick, more power to you. You know what I mean? If it doesn't make you sick and it doesn't make you super inebriated, like it's just gnarly, like you hit that golden zone between lysergamide and ethanol, and you did your job and you did it well, you know, I'm all for that. I just don't think I'm in a position to be able to do that right now because I don't think my environment is safe. So I'm just using the base ingredients. And now I gotta clean up. And let's see, I'll just take this and I'll put this in here. Oh boy. Anyway. And sometimes I'll wash out the pot with soap, but and scrub it. But I only need to do that every once in a while. Another fun thing I've been doing lately is I made this instant beer bag, which I'll have to refill at some point. You would have to put preservatives in this, and that would ruin the point if you're going to sell it. So this is just grains and hops and sugar all ground up. And what I like doing is after I drink the first round of coffee from the morning, put some of that on top of it and run it again. And it's just generally pretty delicious. And actually now I have an appetite. And this is what I was talking about. Now my appetite's stimulated. So I'm going to go ahead and relax. And I'm going to eat this biryani from down the road. And I'll see you next time.